1 in 3 is intended for mature audiences. Episodes contain explicit content and may be triggering as they often include violence and other varying forms of abuse such as emotional, psychological, sexual, and physical. In most cases, names have been changed to protect all involved. Please note, statements and opinions of guests do not necessarily reflect those of my own. Hi, warriors. Welcome to 1 in 3. I'm your host, Ingrid. Last week, I had the privilege of speaking with Emma Jean Rowin, who shared her heart-wrenching story about the early days of her abusive relationship. Today, we continue that conversation and delve deeper into the pivotal moments that shift a person from victim to survivor. We'll explore the critical catalysts that help someone regain their strength, how to recognize when it's time to leave, and the steps toward healing. Let's begin this powerful discussion. Emma Jean, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you back on 1 in 3 again.
I'm glad to be back. I'm excited for our conversation.
Okay, so this is a big one. This is talking about how to get out of these relationships.
Yes. So this for me was the way out. And I'm going to begin in the middle of chapter 18. The name of the chapter is The Sad Chair. And at the beginning of the chapter, I kind of discuss how I discovered that I have a sad chair because I'm always sitting in the chair crying, and my 3-year-old comes to me and tells me, "Mommy, why are you in your sad chair? Is it because Daddy always yells at you?" And so that was the first realization of this particular day. And then I'm going to start reading from when I pick my daughter up. I don't return home between the birthday ceremony and school pickup. Over the past few months, I've perfected the art of wandering through Hobby Lobby and Home Goods, sizing up the merchandise and avoiding the dark cloud of my home. Some of the employees even know my name now. The circular pacing through the stores helps me meditate through my anguish, much like my sad chair. Hours later, I return to pick up the kids. School pickup always drains the life from me. I hate making small talk with these happily married mothers, still lighthearted enough to care about their spring wreaths and vegetable gardens. I had that once, but it feels like another lifetime ago. I muddle through the conversations, pretending I can relate, spending every last bit of energy I have to ensure my kids belong in the school community. It's exhausting, but worth it to see the flashes of excitement on their faces when we first reunite. "Mommy, I had a wonderful birthday," Ava tells me as she skips across the school lawn. I breathe her in through a long hug and relish the recharge it gives me. Cal squeezes my leg from behind, gifting me another jolt of happy. God, I love my kids. As we pull onto the highway, I study Ava's expression in the rearview mirror. She looks genuinely happy now, and I hope maybe I misread her earlier. "Can we have Pizza World for lunch?" "Sure, baby," I say. "Pepperoni? Let me call Dad and see what he wants on the second pizza." Alec answers in a snarl. "Where the hell have you been?" My gut drops. "What do you mean? I was at the birthday ceremony, and then I just wasted some time at Hobby Lobby instead of driving all the way home for 2 hours." "I didn't marry you so you could spend all your time away from home. A good wife would be here taking care of the house. You don't work." I tripped over a basket of laundry that's been sitting in our bedroom for 3 days. "You're worthless, dumb fucking bitch. Fucking worthless." He screams so loudly that my right ear feels like it's been zapped by an electrical shock. We are not on speakerphone, but the kids can hear every word. Panic travels through my veins. "I was just calling because Ava wants Pizza World for lunch, and I wondered what you wanted to eat." My voice trembles, and I know Ava picks up on it. "Fucking pizza. I have 100 people's money on the line, and you want to talk to me about pizza? Figure it out yourself, you loser, you miserable piece of shit. You're so stupid." He hangs up. My hands shake on the steering wheel as I round the corner to our subdivision. I would give anything to just drive past, to take my children, buy them new wardrobes at Target, and sleep at my mother's house with them, never to return to this place again. But my children need their father, and they deserve a home that's intact. Intact. That's what's always best for them, to be intact. My kids can't have their immediate family obliterated like mine was. "Mommy," Ava's voice pierces the tension that stretches throughout the car. "I have a great idea. I'll go inside first, and I'll act really, really cute. And then Dad will be happy, and he won't be mean to you, and he won't yell at you." Her words hit me like a bomb. My children are not unscathed by their father's terrorizing of me, not by a mile. They are absorbing it like a training video presented by Thomas the Tank Engine on PBS and adapting to survive. I am showing my children that this is normal family life, and one day this behavior from a man will feel like home to my daughter. I can see it all in this one moment, laid out in cinematic montage. The arrogant posture of the handsome, brooding classmate who will one day shift Ava's interest from cats to boys. The first venomous words he spits toward her that both surprise and hurt her, yet somehow stir a familiar feeling inside, one that she won't mind living with. The hollow sound of the lies she will tell me to cover for him, to throw me off the trail of the signs that are already recognizable to me from my own life. The stories she will spin to herself in order to cross the bridge to marriage and motherhood with him. The disappointment on her face as he storms through their home, targeting her with all his brokenness, and the shuddering of her shoulders as she cries, alone in private, hiding her sorrow from their children. Will she have her own sad chair like her mother? Stay in your seat when we pull into the garage, Ava, I say. I want to tell you something. Okay, Mama, she replies cheerfully. I unstrap Cal, climb over his seat, and hold him in my lap next to Ava. Look at me, Ava, I say, needing to speak quickly before Alec knows we're home. She looks at me, exaggerating her focus by leaning forward and touching her forehead to mine so our eyes meet. I smile. Honey, this is important. I want to tell you that the way your dad treats me is not okay. The yelling and the mean names, that's not how dads are supposed to act towards moms. She squints and crinkles her nose. Sometimes people get angry though, Mama, like in our book, The Way I Feel. Not like this, baby. People can get angry, but it's not okay to act like Dad. Her eyebrows lower. Does Jeffrey yell at Grandma like Dad yells at you? No, never. Not like this. My mother's new husband is a good man and a goddamn saint compared to Alec, I think. What about Josh and Lila? Does Josh do that to her? No, honey. No, he does not. Mommy needs to fix it, and I'm going to fix it. I need you to trust me, and no matter what I tell you is going to happen next, okay? Okay, Mama. She stretches her arms straight for a hug. I love you so much, Mama. I love you so much too, birthday girl. Let's go in and order this pizza. That evening, after being called a stupid bitch for the third time over getting the toppings on the pizza wrong, I level an ultimatum at Alec. Either go to counseling or I will call a divorce attorney. No, he says. I'm not going to some counselor and risk them giving me some bogus diagnosis that lands me on a government list to put me in an internment camp. I'm not going. It's not going to happen. When he refuses, I take him at his word and I tell him to leave for the final time. And in doing so, I give my daughter the best birthday gift a mother can give her daughter, a backbone.
So, I read that and I didn't stop crying for like 10 pages after that. I actually just texted a few of my friends who I have 3 great friends. We're in this group text. We actually will send videos to each other once a week to update each other. And all of us have been in abusive relationships at varying stages of relationships. And I sent this to them because they all have daughters. And I was just saying, I am so proud to be standing next to these amazing moms who chose their path to leave their abusers and they gave their daughters a backbone. And that was so freaking incredible. And like I said, I sent that text to, that picture to, I think there's like 4 different groups of friends that I sent that to because it was amazing. And so
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm tearing up again. I knew I wanted it. I folded the page over because I was like, well, she's not going to read this. I want to make sure we bring this part up.
It's a tough chapter for me to read. It's my favorite chapter, I will tell you that. And I will tell you this about myself. I've already indicated that I kind of come from a background where I had low self-esteem, and I don't give myself credit for a lot of things, but that one I will give myself credit for walking out and teaching that immediate lesson to her. Maybe at the time I didn't understand the gravity of it, but I will tell you that now that my daughter is 21 and she has been through dating and several relationships, I have seen her be the opposite of who I was at her age. And it came so naturally to her that I almost had to at times rein her in and say, you have to be nice to someone. You can be discerning, but we have to be reasonable, because it really infused itself in her. She trusted me. She trusted my words. She believed me, and she got on my side that day as far as the side of this isn't what we put up with. I never had to say it to her again. I never had to teach her those lessons as she was going through dating. She is armed in steel. I mean, she is a strong, strong girl. And that's the thing in my life I am the most proud of.
And I have a friend who's the same way, that she will look at her daughter and just see, even though her daughter's still quite young, see this strength that's just emitting out of her. And, kids model after their parents, whether you like the good, the bad, the ugly. And when you see, especially a woman coming out of an abusive relationship and having a daughter, to see your daughter have the strength, that's because of you. She knows what not to put up with. And I have another friend who's concerned because she's sharing custody of her two children with her abuser. And his home is a very, very bad environment. And her concern is, my daughter is exposed to this. He's remarried, and his wife is not a good person either. And so her concern is obviously, like, her daughter's there 50% of the time. So how am I supposed to make sure that my daughter is okay? And my reply to her was, she has you. You left it. You're not in the relationship putting up. I said putting up with it too. It's not. It's hard to. I don't know what other word
I don't know
to use
another,
for that.
but I don't either.
But living that, you're not doing that anymore. You've removed yourself from that situation, and you are, whether you like it or not, the mom and the dad are when they're young, they're the two highest role models in these children's lives. And even if one of them is bad and the other one is not bad or whatever, they still look at the two of you. So she's still, she's holding her mom in high regard, and she's going to see. She may not recognize it now, but she's going to see, like, that my mom is strong. And, I will model myself after that.
Yeah. Her mom has drawn a line in the sand, and I think it would be harder for her daughter to step over that, having seen that modeled, than, I just think what we see our mothers do is what gets programmed into our autopilot. And that's not to say that we can't break free from that, because I obviously, did break that cycle. Not that my father wasn't abusive, but again, it wasn't a healthy marriage, and my mother wasn't being treated the best that she could have been treated. It's funny because my parents divorced after I started dating Alec, and my father actually left my mother. And through that, I did get to see my mom be the stronger version of herself. She became independent. She was independent financially. She lived on her own. She had healthy relationships after that. And I got to see that. And it did help me. It helps me model how I am in my marriage now. So I did get the benefit of that. I think, and this is my opinion personally, I think that I would have done better if my parents had divorced when I was younger. And I know that parents then believed they were doing the right thing to stay for the children. I don't believe that. I really think you have to model healthy relationships. My mother was a feminist, and she preached feminist values in my home, but her words didn't reach me. It was her actions. And I think your friend will see that as her daughter grows up, it's those actions that will reach her daughter.
I think so too. And I can't remember what I texted back to her, but I was like, ooh, that was good.
Yeah.
It's very important. My mom, I didn't see her a lot growing up. She worked night shift, and, there wasn't a lot of interaction with her. But same after my parents divorced, I saw a woman who not that she doesn't need a man and, whatever, but like she's able to function on her own. And same thing, ran a house, worked. I was in college. My sister was still in high school, and she's taking care of my sister and supporting both of us. And it does. It's a big, it has a big impact on the kids. And I think that a lot of times that is a turning point for people who are in domestic violent relationships, and marriages or not marriages. But when there are children involved, like if you can't leave for yourself, eventually you're going to look at your children and say, I can't have them in this anymore.
Yes. And that was the case for me. I did not have the self-love and the self-esteem to do it for myself. I probably could have endured so much more. And I can't even explain to you how I absorbed these things, but I think I thought of myself as a strong person for staying and enduring that. I can do this, and, I'll do this for the love of my family, but I would not let my children put up with it. And in that sense, my children became my self-esteem because I cared way too much for them. And I thought way too much of them to let them simmer in that environment any longer. And then after I got out, I learned to build my own self-esteem back. Sometimes that's the way it has to go, right? Sometimes you don't just learn to love yourself and you're not a phoenix from the flames for yourself. Sometimes it's for your kids. And I think, if there's anything that mothers can take away from my book or this conversation, I would want it to be that if you can't do it for yourself and you've got all kinds of confusing programming in your head telling you to stay, do it for your children, because to me, seeing it from that perspective made it very clear. I was confused when I thought about what made me a good wife, whether to stay and try and rescue him or not. But when I looked at my children, or when I thought to myself, sometimes I'll say this to friends in a difficult situation, what would you say to your daughter if she was in this situation? Would she be staying 5 years? Would she be staying 3 years? Would she be putting up with this? Or would you? And, they say, I would tell her to get out. I would tell her to get out. Then do that for yourself.
Exactly, because the longer you stay in it, your daughters are learning this is the kind of relationship that is okay. It's okay to be treated this way. Your sons are learning this is okay to treat another human being this way.
Yes.
And, I'm in the process of reading Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. And I don't know if you've read that before.
I've seen the cover. Someone else shared it recently, I think. But no, I've never read it.
I've seen it quite a bit. A lot of people have been posting that it's a great book. I was reluctant to read it because I kind of was like, well, I know why he does it. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't sure if it was a very anti-man kind of a book, which it's not. The author is a man, and he had support groups for abusive men. So he was studying them while trying to rehabilitate them.
Okay.
And a lot of the abusers would say, like, the kids should be with me because they belong together. Look at what she's doing. She's ruining our family. Mm-hmm. We were a cohesive family before. But a good point that the author makes is that once the abuser started abusing, that intact family, that ideal is gone. They ruined it. It's already
That's
gone.
Right. That's right.
So by staying in the relationship, you're not keeping an intact family. That family's gone. And he's already robbed the children of what a father is supposed to be. He's already not.
That's right. And that's a really good point. It really is. And that's how people should think of it.
Exactly. And then another thing is when it comes into custody, a lot of women think, well, I don't want to take my children away from their father. He's good to them. He's only mean to me. He's not mean to them. He's a good father. And another point he makes is, a good father does not abuse the mother of his children.
It's true. It's true. Once you are abusive, you don't fall in the category of a healthy nuclear family.
Right.
My ex-husband still sends me, we've been apart since 2010, and I still 15 years later get emails, nastygrams from him. And one of the ones I got was around the time that the Barbie movie came out, and the subject line was understanding Barbie, and then it said something along the lines of nuclear families generate love. The idea that these abusive partners consider themselves to be in the category of a nuclear family, you're not in a nuclear family anymore, or them saying, on the same note, saying to women, we're soulmates. You don't qualify as a soulmate. If you're an abusive man, you don't get to have a soulmate. You aren't anyone's soulmate. You're disqualified. That's that. And so you don't get to speak in those terms to save yourself or to buy yourself more time.
I have friends whose abusers are the fathers of their kids, and they had to take a co-parenting class prior to being granted the divorce. They mentioned that the class emphasized that the parents are significantly decreasing their kids' ability to succeed socially or academically only because they are getting divorced. They were told that the children of unhappy marriages have a better advantage than those of divorced households, even if the divorce is amicable and the mom and dad co-parent well. This, it infuriates me because hearing this could be a valid reason on why a victim would choose to stay in an abusive relationship.
That's right. That's right. And I think that happens a lot. I think there are a lot of different mindsets. For some people, it's religion, and that's another thing for me. I grew up Catholic, right? And I had asked my mother growing up, why don't you get divorced? You're not happy. He's not happy. And her answer was, I am Catholic. And I'm not saying that I'm not here to tell you that can't be a correct mindset for someone else. But I think there are different, what I'm saying is there are a lot of different mindsets that will tell you to endure something that maybe is not healthy for you or your children. And we have to be discerning enough to not just take those as black and white all the time. We have to look into our specific home. I am sure that if you look at statistics, it's very easy to say, oh, divorce is the hardest on the children. But let's look at all the nuances of what's going on in those homes and what is really affecting those kids. I don't think it's just divorce alone that's causing their suffering.
Not at all. I have a friend whose son turned and looked at her when he was, I think, 4 years old and said, my daddy is really mean. And, she was like, I need to leave this relationship. I can't stay here. She did stay. She still tried to, how long can I endure this? But she did finally get divorced. But yeah, those children are being affected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's different for everybody. And of course, I don't know any situation, any marriage, and especially any abusive marriage that's all just exactly the same, or any partnership that's all exactly the same. But you and I can have found a lot of common ground in my book. And I have heard from so many women who have said, oh my gosh, I feel like you're speaking to me and about me. There are a lot of really consistent patterns in what we go through. And one of those is our children telling us that they see the problems in our marriage.
And they do. And as much as you can be a positive role model and show strength for your children by being out of the relationship, you're showing them the exact same thing by staying in, or not a powerful role model, but you're still being a role model to them by staying in the relationship. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good role model.
No, it's not. Absolutely, it's not. It shows a lot of strength to walk away when it's really necessary. And I also think there are those people who say, well, my kids don't hear us fight. My kids don't know the dynamics. Your kids feel a lot of the energy in your home. And I am sure that my kids heard a lot. Well, in my case, it was happening right in front of them. And that was something I couldn't control. But I know that even when people are trying to speak in hushed tones, I could hear my parents fighting at night. I knew what was going on. I knew there was tension in the room even when they were being silent.
Yeah. I mean, my kids will look at me and I could have a stressful day at work and not say anything. They'll come home from school and they're like, Mom, what's wrong?
Yes.
Nothing. What are you talking about? I'm fine. We're going to go do this or whatever. I'm like, no, something's wrong. And, they're just picking up on my vibe, I guess,
Yeah.
and they're very intuitive.
They
those
are
little
very
boogers.
intuitive. But you know what? That's another common thread that I hear a lot from mothers who have been in abusive situations is that their kids are really checking their pulse a lot. My kids did that and still do that as adults for me. What's wrong? You sound like you're stressed. My kids, I think to some degree, feel very responsible for my happiness because they saw me go through unhappiness. We almost have this unhealthy codependency that I have to push away and say, that's not your job to worry about me. And I can have a bad day like anybody else. And the world isn't going to crumble. But I think we both have a sense about each other. You've been through too much. And I think they feel the same back towards me. And, that's a really common thread with women like us because our children have seen us be put through a lot of sadness and they don't want to see it. They recognize it and they don't want to see even the smallest signs of that.
Which is makes it so much more important to get out if you can, because then at some point the kids are going to think, well, should I have protected mommy? Or did I say something to make dad mad? I'm the one who dropped the plate and made dad mad. And then now he's taking it out on mom or,
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah. They're going to absorb it one way or another. But you're right. The worst way that they could absorb it is to perceive it as their fault. And if you think about that passage that I read where Ava is saying to me in the car, oh, I'll go in and I'll act cute and I'll make him happy. She's taking responsibility for how I'm going to be treated. And, how dangerous was that? I mean, nobody had to spell that out for me to hear her say those things. I just thought this is sick and twisted that she's going to try and go in there and write this for me. And she's going to do it by being cute. It was almost like enabling the behavior. That was just such a tangled little web of what she was showing me that she was being programmed into. I think if we don't show the example of walking away, we seal their fate in one direction. And I think if we do show the example of walking away, we seal their fate in the other. It feels to me like my children just get it. Like it's a gift I gave them and I can't ungive it. And they've absorbed it and that's who they are now in their bones.
Okay. So more about getting out. So I have mentioned this in previous episodes that is one of the most dangerous times in a person's life is when they choose to leave their abuser. And, you can spit out statistics and you can say, contact these agencies, they'll protect you, get a restraining order. You can say all these different things that are out there to help protect you. But it doesn't necessarily protect people. And I think that it's really important to understand your gut and your abuser. And if that's an individual that you think that I can set down the ground rules of, like you said, don't be home when I'm moving out, and have that, and that he's going to follow it, that's fantastic. But other people, this is something that you need to, don't even let them know that you plan on leaving at all. Just when they're at work,
Yes.
Pack up. And when they come home one day, you're going to be gone. So
yes,
that's something that's really important to consider when people do leave.
Definitely. And let a loved one know that you're doing it and ask for that kind of support to make sure that, you're safe and that they know I'm doing this day. But you're right. You may have to get used to the idea of leaving some things behind as well. I didn't take everything with me when I went. I moved out pretty quickly. I had one day and there were a lot of things that I left in the unfinished portion of the basement that, maybe meant something to me, but that I didn't take with me and I got over it. I know. I spoke to one woman the other day who said I was outside playing with my child and my partner was taking a nap. And I said to myself, I don't want to go back in that house. I don't want to do this anymore. And she walked inside and grabbed her load of laundry that was in the dryer and her children's clothes and put them in a bag and left and didn't come back. And for her, that was the right way out, right? She didn't have to battle with anybody. She didn't have to ask permission or be held against her will. For her, I just need these clothes. And that's enough for me, because you can replace anything else. You can't replace your safety.
Absolutely. And when the opportunity strikes, take it. I did an episode on Tina Turner, and she had just gotten beaten up by Ike and she ran across a highway. He was taking a nap. She ran out of the hotel, ran across a highway into another hotel, bloody and a mess. But that was the opportunity that she had, and she took it, and she didn't go back, which also don't feel bad if you go back. It takes an average of 7 times for someone to officially leave their abuser.
Yeah, I think for me it was 3 or 4. And I mean, I'm talking about him having a U-Haul and moving out and then me calling him back home. And, sometimes you're just not ready. But once you're ready, and I've heard a lot of women say this, once you're ready, that switch flips and you can't go back. I couldn't stand to be in his presence after that anymore.
Yeah. Once you hit, I think there's a final straw for everyone. And once you get there, that's it. That's it. And I'm not going back. And it's a really great feeling, actually, to finally get to that point.
Is.
Okay.
It really is.
So is there anything else you want to talk about on this section? Okay. So you're going to come back next week one more time and talk about what happens once you're out and all the work that goes into it.
I look forward to it.
Thank you again to Emma Jean for joining me today, and thank you for listening. I've included the link to Emma Jean's 1 in 3 profile and the link to where to buy her book in the show notes. I will be back next week as Emma Jean returns one more time to discuss and read an excerpt from her book, When Things Collapse. Until then, stay strong, and wherever you are in your journey, always remember, you are not alone. Find more information, register as a guest, or leave a review by going to the website 1in3podcast.com. That's the number 1, IN, the number 3, podcast.com. Follow 1 in 3 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 in 3 podcast. To help me out, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 1 in 3 is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.